Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's get this hat on and get to this first question. Alright. Hey Jason, I started lifting 6 days a week because lifting weights helps me to manage the anxiety and depression that comes with having autism. I perform the squat, push, press, and deadlift each training session, but to keep from overreaching, I only do 1 set per exercise and leave reps in the tank. My question is, will I be able to make gains this way? You know what, that's an interesting thing because, again, you're dealing with something that's very, very therapeutic. And people need to understand when you're coming to things like your purpose of training and the style of training that you've chosen is for therapeutic reasons. It doesn't matter in that case if you end up making slightly less gains from it, and we're going to get to that in a minute. Would it really matter if you make less gains from it? As long as you stay fit, you stay healthy, and it fulfills the psychological role that you need. Because for you, lifting is a form of anxiety management. It's an antidepressant. You're dealing with your own set of issues, and it's potentially helpful to you. And if that's the primary reason you're training, well, then that should be the primary goal. That should always be the primary concern. Because if you're getting what you want out of it, it helps you manage your anxiety, it helps you manage your depression, and it helps you deal with that, then I totally get that. Because I have met several people who are like higher functioning Asperger's. I've known a couple. And yeah, they all need certain things in their life to deal with the anxiety of it because it does affect their social interactions in certain ways, and it does affect the way that they feel about a lot of things. And so finding something that's therapeutic and lets you deal with that is great. And choosing something like weightlifting, which we know to have enormous amounts of health benefits, that's really doubling up. And because you are improving your mental health along with your physical health concurrently, and I think that's a fantastic way to deal with this. So I applaud you for that. Now, as far as your question of can you make progress doing this, can you make gains? Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, we could argue whether it's ideal or not all day long, but it's not a bad method. It's actually a decent method what you're doing. What you're going to have to watch is, of course, like you said, you're doing 1 set. Hey, it's going to be harder to overreach on that. It's going to be a lot harder to overreach on 1 set, and you're leaving reps in the tank. All right, that's good. That's going to be fine for the squat and the push press. You're going to find that that's not a problem at all. In fact, the way you're doing it, I doubt you're ever going to run into a serious problem at all with this. You should be perfectly fine. No problem. The deadlift you're going to need to watch. And that's what I would pay attention to. I would pay very close attention to the deadlift and watch it and see if you start regressing. You start having problems gripping the bar. All right. So that's what you're going to need to watch on the deadlift. Even if you're leaving 2 or 3 reps in the tank sometimes, really high frequency deadlifting can sometimes really start causing you to overreach. And so what I would watch for on the deadlift, if you start having workouts to where you're struggling with a weight that you know is your 5 rep max and it feels really heavy for 3 reps, or you're struggling to grip the bar, the bar is slipping out of your grip even though you got chalk and everything on, that's a sign your peripheral nervous system is being pushed too hard. And you know what? If that's the case, step back and only deadlift twice a week for a little while. All right? Deadlift only twice a week for a little while. And you'll be perfectly fine. That'll let you bounce back. And I'm not saying you need to only deadlift once or twice a week for forever. You may not need to. You can do this in almost a form of deloading. And then when you're caught back up and your strength is back, your grip strength is good, you're not getting fatigue or soreness or anything from the deadlift again. And then if you want to slowly implement adding it back in more days again, that's perfectly acceptable. I think it'll be just fine. But as far as the method you're using, yeah, you could totally make gains doing that. You should be able to get bigger and stronger as long as there's a slow general upward trend in the amount of weight that you're using on the bar. As long as you're getting stronger over time, you are making gains. You will get bigger from it. All right, next question. I get the idea of progressive overload, but I was wondering how your muscles would adapt if you chose to lift a weight you could barely lift for your set, but then continue to use the same weight for a while. Would it continue to get easier and easier as you build muscle, or do you have to actually keep adding more and more weight? All right, good question. Yeah, this still falls under progressive overload because here's what I would point out. Yeah, you could start that way. In fact, you barely get the set. You might find that you're going to struggle to do workouts again too often. You probably will be okay for a while. But yeah, you will get stronger using a weight you can barely handle for 1 full set for the reps. But here's the thing, progression doesn't require you to increase weight all the time. Now, if this is a really light weight, you're going to stall out on this very fast. So your question is really depends upon how advanced you are and how heavy of a weight you're talking about. Now, if you're talking about you're someone who's been lifting for a year and you have, a good base built already, or you've been lifting really hard for 6 months and you have increased weight on the bar a lot. But if you're talking about coming in and bench pressing 95 pounds for a male and doing this, or squatting 135 for a grown man and doing this, no, you're going to stall very quickly. You're not going to make any more gains or muscle growth, no matter what you do with it. But if you're talking about someone who's built a decent strength base, are you talking about using 150 pounds on the bench press? You're talking about using, 230, 250 pounds on the squat, something like that. Yeah, you could make gains for extended periods of time using that weight. Because first of all, the weight will get easier. You'll gain muscle, but you can use the same weight and reps at about the same tempo for maybe 2 to 3 weeks and continue to make gains off of it. Then what you could do, you could start moving the weight faster, meaning bar speed is a form of progression. Because think about this very simply. Let's say you got 200 pounds on a bar that you can do for 5 reps, but they're really slow because you're weak. What happens when you move them faster? If you take a given weight and you move it 30% faster, like say you cut from a 1.5 second rep till you get strong enough to do the rep in 1 second, which one recruits more muscle fibers? To move a weight from a dead stop to the same distance in 1 second or 1.5 seconds? This should be common sense. The 1 second one uses more muscle fibers. You recruit more muscle fibers moving the same weight faster because your workload density is higher. You are required to generate more force to move it there. That force required more initial muscle fiber recruitment to get the weight started to move it faster. Faster reps recruit more muscle fibers. Contrary to what a lot of bodybuilders will try to tell you, that a slower rep recruits more muscle fibers, that's bullshit. That's denying basic physics. All right, that's complete bullshit. Moving a weight faster on the concentric rep uses more fibers. So if you're able to take the same weight, same number of reps, and move it faster, that bar speed will be a form of progression. That will stimulate more growth. Then when that fails, you could start adding more reps. So actually, you could probably take the same weight once you're kind of through all your early novice phase. And yeah, you could probably make gains for a couple of months off the same weight by adding different factors with the same weight. It's not necessarily ideal. Now, this might be ideal for people who are really advanced. And that's what you need to remember. Really advanced lifter, yeah, they can milk out the little bit of gains they're going to get for quite a while on the same weight and just work on progressing in any way that they can. So a lot of it depends on how far along you are, how strong you are. Intermediates can get away with this okay. Late novices okay. Advanced lifters, this tends to work decently well. It's going to work better for them just because their progress is going to be slower, and something like a simple change in bar speed or being able to add a rep or two might be all the gains that they're going to make in a 4 to 6 week period of time. It's just how it is for them. All right, next question. Jason, should post-workout nutrition differ based upon the type of exercise you completed? For example, whether you did GPP work, heavy lifting, endurance, cardio, HITT, cardio, etc. Why are you worried about post-workout nutrition at all? Like, post-workout nutrition has been overhyped. Post-workout nutrition is mostly only important. It's only like a game changer for people who trained fasted, which is what all those studies are on that get people to take recovery shakes, or for people who are training twice a day. Pre-workout nutrition, or even nutrition the evening before, is more critical. And that really varies upon whether you're doing what type of intensity you're doing. Meaning, if you're doing extreme amounts of endurance, and again, I'm not talking about cardio for fat loss, I'm talking about cardio for performance. You're about to go do a 10-mile run. You better have a lot more fat in your pre-workout. You're going to need more fat to complete that endurance work than just carb loading. Whereas in the others are going to be more carb dependent. You're going to burn more glucose. So pre-workout nutrition, this stuff matters more. But post-workout, what are you trying to replenish? You're trying to replenish muscle glycogen before your next training session. Now, if you just eat normal meals, if you didn't train fasted, you're going to be replenished again if you're not training again till tomorrow. It becomes really irrelevant. Don't worry about it. But if you're going to train again later, or do you think you have fat stores that you depleted you need to recover? What, your body fat? You need to recover body fat in between training sessions? Come on. Fat loading is only going to be relevant if you're going to do a lot of endurance work. For performance, again, you need to remember there's between performance and people doing it for body composition. People who go run a 10-mile, do a 10-mile run, or who are going to do 4 hours of cardio for endurance purposes are not trying to lose body fat when they do it. And that's what people need to remember. But otherwise, you're just replenishing muscle glycogen, though. That's the big deal. So you should have carbs between your training sessions. Replenish all your muscle glycogen. If you're a serious athlete and you're doing 2 training sessions a day, then obviously you're going to be on a very high carb diet, so carb load in between. This is straightforward. People really worry about things like this that don't matter sometimes. Quit micromanaging things like that and think about the fact that all you're talking about with post-workout nutrition for the most part is replenishing muscle glycogen stores at some point before you train again. Timing of it doesn't become relevant unless your pre-workout nutrition was terrible, or in many cases not at all, like fasted studies, which is what most of them are done on, or you're training 2 or more times a day. And that's the only time it even matters at all. So outside of that, again, don't worry about this stuff. You're micromanaging something that doesn't matter probably for 99% of people's needs out there. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.